Good morning. All right. Dale's going to be a little jealous, I'm afraid. Samuel Adams said, our unalterable resolution should be to be free. Like most in America, we're familiar with freedom. It's kind of our calling card. We fight wars to preserve freedom. We fight wars to establish freedom in other countries. But I want to know, what is unique about Christian freedom? Christ says the truth will set you free. I don't know that we in America, or that the American freedom is the same as the Christian freedom. So I'd like to explore that freedom dynamic specifically from a Christian context. And we're going to go back to Exodus initially. I think we'll learn early on that there's more than just the freedom to operate. So you remember the Exodus story. The Israelites were enslaved to the Egyptians when God called Moses to lead them out of bondage. Moses said, "Let my people go." That was well timed. For what purpose, though? Was the idea just to get the Israelites out of Egypt and then God was going to carry on with his business? No, the second clause of that statement says, "Let my people go that they may worship me." God's whole purpose for delivering the Israelites was to take them out of captivity into a place where then they could worship him. It is a two-sided transaction, we could speak, so to say. And there's more that is fleshed out here in the New Testament. In Paul, I'm going to discuss 3 points that I think he gives us about Christian freedom. Number one, in his letter to the Galatians, Paul says, for freedom, Christ has set us free. Christ sets us free. We do nothing to earn this freedom. You can spend your whole life seeking freedom. You can spend our whole life in America, military or otherwise, pursuing freedom. And you can get American freedom. But the only Christian freedom that we have is granted to us by God. Solomon tried this pursuit in his life. He denied himself nothing that his eyes saw. And he concluded it was vanity. And I think that will be our same end should we pursue freedom apart from Christ. Number two, this freedom is not free. Paul says you were bought with a price. It was costly, and Christ paid that price. You can be on the right side of personal desires that will ultimately lead you, or possibly lead you, to the wrong side of eternity. It was purchased for us, this freedom was. You have no outstanding balance, no fees, no taxes, no debts. Your debt is paid in full, but there was a price. Finally, point number 3, and this flows from that second point. You were bought with a price, and Paul says, therefore, honor God with your bodies. And I think this is a little bit of an echo to the Israelite passage. God pulls them out so that they may worship me. Paul says, you've been bought with a price, therefore, honor God with your bodies. This is the so what for Christian freedom. I'm free. What's next for me? God says, I purchased you. You belong to me now. Don't worry about your past. I want you to participate in my mission for the world. God delivers us from freedom and commissions us to then glorify him. It's challenging indeed, and what makes it more difficult is the language that Paul uses. Paul writes to the church in Rome, he says, you have been set free from sin and have become slaves to righteousness. I think this should indicate the gravity with which Paul understood Christian freedom. It's not something that we do on weekends. It's not something that we take lightly. It is our daily submission to God. Most importantly, we are not that master, okay? And for good reason, too. Left to our own devices, we become slaves to sin. So we gladly submit to Christ. We become slaves to Christ and slaves to righteousness. Only then will we find freedom. I think Bob Dylan was right when he said, you got to serve somebody. I don't know that he cited scripture when he said it, but I would argue that it was good theology. So I'll leave you with Joshua's ultimatum that he gave to the Israelites. Choose this day whom you will serve, but as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord. Thank you.